So our objective for today's lesson is that you can construct a function to model a linear function between two quantities. So the question that we are given today: a bed and breakfast has room for 25 people. A group wants to rent the facility for a wedding. The bed and breakfast agrees to rent it out for $1,000 flat plus $40 per person. So the question we're asking is, how would you graph this? What is the relationship like between the total cost given and input of number of people, and also what type of function is this? So the first thing we want to do in any problem solving is understand the question. So we're going to take our question and we're going to highlight some of the main information out of this. So we're dealing with 25 people. We don't really care what the group wants to rent, so we're not going to worry any about that. So they want to rent it out for $1,000 flat and $40 per person. So our question, understanding the question, is just going to be highlighting our key information like we just did. So we're working with 25 people. They're going to be renting it for $1,000 flat for the facility, plus $40 per person. And the question is asking us, how would we graph this? And also, what type of function is it? Alright, now that we understand the question and our key information, we are going to move on to devising a plan. So, with the question, we already know that we're going to be dealing with something with a graph. So, to solve this problem, we are going to be using graphs. And we're also going to be using equations. And with equations, we're probably going to be using a table of some sort. So we're going to be last using a table or a chart. Alright, so now that we have our plan, we're going to go ahead and we're going to carry out the plan. So first, we know that we're going to be working with y equals mx plus b, m equaling the slope and b equaling the y-intercept. So with the key information that we've pulled out, let's copy it over to this one. So we know there's 25 people again, and that $1,000 is what they want regardless to rent out the facility, plus $40 per person. So no matter what, even when we have 0 people renting out the facility, it's going to be $1,000 as their flat rate. So we know that that's going to go ahead and be our y-intercept. So let's start here with what we know. So 1,000 is our y-intercept. So now we need to figure out what our slope is. Our slope is actually going to be the $40 per person, and the x is going to be the amount of people. So let's rewrite this one more time. $40 times x people plus the $1,000. So this right here is going to be the equation that we are going to be using for our graph, which looks a lot like a linear equation and a linear function, which we'll see here in just a couple minutes. So now that we have our equation, for the sake of time, I have already done this so that we don't have to sit through and do this all over again. So this is our table. So we have our x, which is going to be our input, and our y, which is going to be our output. So with 0 people, and put it as our x, it's going to be $1,000. Down the line, we're going to do the same thing. So when we have one person staying there, 40 times 1 plus the 1,000 flat rate, and here is our output right over here, which is 1,040. This is going to go all the way down the line. You can see the work for each one of these, all the way down to, if we had 25 people, $40 so per person, which is times the 25, plus that $1,000 rate, which is never going to change because that's a flat rate. So now that we've constructed this table of our inputs and our outputs, we would be graphing it. And again, I've done this for the sake of time. I've already mapped out our graph. So we have our title up here, cost for bed and breakfast. So right here on our y-axis we have the output or the cost, and down on the x-axis we have the input or the number of people. So we're pretty much just going to go through. So we're going to start with 0 people, And we have a little break right here in our graph because we're starting at 1,000 and going up by 40 increments, and over here we're starting at 0 people and going by 1 person. So for 0 people, it's going to be $1,000 according to our table. For 1 person, it's going to be 1,040. For 2 people, 1,080. For 3 people, 1,120. It's just going to keep going in this linear function, up 1 each time. So we're increasing by $40 per person that comes in. As you can see, I'm going just right along this line, moving up 1 each time until we get all the way to 25 people, which is going to be right there at 2,000. Oops, I did one extra one right there. That is going to be our 25 people right there. So we can get a ruler or straight edge of some sort and connect all of our dots. And we're going to see that this is going to be a linear function. And these match right here, going up every one. So now let's answer the last question. Alright, so looking back, how much would it be for 25 people to rent the bed and breakfast? We could either look at the graph or the table we made. So either way we can look. So with 25 people, it was going to be $2,000. And like I said, this is represented on both the graph and the table that we made. What type of function is this? Since a linear function are straight lines, which is what we see right here, it increases in a straight line. We know this is going to be a linear function. What were the inputs? So, as we spoke about earlier, our inputs on our graph were going to be all of the x numbers that we had. So, also with this, we can look at our domain and range. So our domain was all of our x inputs. So this is going to be our people. So this is going to be 0 through 25. And our range, which was our outputs, so our y, which was our cost, was going to be the $1,000 flat rate through what we ended with, or our answer, or $2,000. So now that we've solved all of the parts to our problem, we've constructed a good graph and a table that helped us through our plan. We're going to go ahead and go to mathisfun.com in the computer lab. This will allow us as our follow-up activity to practice with this and play the game that allows us to enter in different inputs and see what outputs we get and what kind of graphs these get. And again, this is at www.mathisfun.com/functions. Thanks for listening.